I am going to bring to your attention today some rather extraordinary channelings. I was involved with I knew the people who brought through the Course in Miracles in the 70s. In fact, when they came down, they were channeled through a professor of behavioral psychology, Helen Schucman, at Columbia University, and she did not believe in this stuff. When the voice started coming, Helen thought she was in menopause and losing her mind, and called the head of the department, Bill Tedford, to share with him her concerns about herself. And Bill listened, and he said, "Helen, what is this voice saying?" And Helen said, "Well, it's telling me to take notes on A Course in Miracles." And Bill said, and I love what he said about this, with all the courage of one who it wasn't happening to, he said, "Helen, you know shorthand. Why don't you write it down? And we'll find out if it's crazy. And if it's crazy, we won't tell anyone. And if it's not, we'll find out what it has to say." Well, Helen wrote it down, 3 volumes, translated into so many languages, millions of copies over the planet, and so be it. That was the birth of the genesis of the Course in Miracles. I recently, 2 months ago, became aware of another set of channelings that are also known, though much less than the Course in Miracles. And these channelings were done in Kentucky, in Louisville, and they were at the behest of a professor of engineering who had gotten really focused in on UFOs. And he was a pilot himself, and he flew around to talking to everybody he could about what they knew about UFOs, and of course he ran into people who were channeling information about them. So he returned to Louisville. He'd been head of the engineering department of the University of Alaska. We've got some engineers in this room, so they know who they are. They know how they think. And he comes back to Louisville and decides he's going to start a class in channeling. So, who knows him? Engineering students. 14 male college engineering students sat to decide to channel and touch the infinite channel. Not much happened. Until a person flew in from Detroit who had been channeling, and what came through him were the words, "You were too afraid of what you were going to say. You are too afraid that what is going to come through you is not the truth. Let it come through you and then decide for yourselves if it in fact is true or not." That opened the doors. What happened was, in the early 80s, through the only woman sitting in that room, she began channeling an entity known as Ra, R-A. That described itself as a collective consciousness, much as White Eagle is a collective consciousness. And the engineer began asking this entity, Ra, a series of questions that went on for 3 years. And I've only got to say that this person was incredibly incisive, brilliant, and curious, and has left for us 3 years of questions and answers of this entity named Ra. Ra came through, and he said his purpose here was to express and make clear of what he called the law of one. What is the law of one? That there is only one, and that one is the infinite creator. Why do there seem to be so many? The infinite creator became aware of the possibility of finity, limited, and it determined to explore this possibility. The limitless became aware of the possibility of the limited and wanted to know what that was. Why? It is interested in free will, as the Zoroastrians put at the very fountain of creation. What happens if portions of itself are free to do whatever they want? I think that explains a lot of what is happening on this planet at this time. Why does it care? It wants to know itself. How does the Creator investigate the concept of free will? Its infinite intelligence coalesces into a foci of intelligent energy.
These foci call light into being, thereby establishing a pattern of natural laws and creating what we call a galaxy. What do we call such a focus? The Logos, the creative principle, or love. How does calling light into being establish natural laws? Light is intelligent, full of energy, and the building block of what we call matter. Is there more than one Logos? Yes. Each galaxy has its own Logos. Ross says that our people have often worshipped the Logos instead of the one infinite creator from which it comes. There is only one source. Our Logos is a part and a derivation of that source, as we are derivations and a part of the Logos of this galaxy, which we have called God. That's what we call it. Is there a physical manifestation of the Logos? I'm not sure. If there is, I guess it would be the central sun of our galaxy. But though Ra does refer to a central sun, it seems to be the central sun of the universe that we will all return to. The original, the great, the one Logos. If your question, you want to know more answers, this stuff is up on the web under the law of one. It's rather extraordinary. I want to share with you one of the other questions that it answered. It may whet your curiosity. They call this the poker game. And they questioned Ra. Can you expand on the concept, which is this, that it is necessary for an entity to, during incarnation in the physical, as we call it, become polarized or interact properly with other entities, and why this isn't possible in between incarnations when he is aware of what he wants to do. But why must he come into an incarnation and lose memory? Conscious memory of what he wants to do, and then act in a way that he hopes to act. Could you expand on this, please? Answer. I am Ra. Let us give the example of a man who sees all the poker hands. He then knows the game. But it is a child's play to gamble, for there is no risk. The other hands are known. The possibilities are known, and the hand will be correctly, but with no interest. In time-space, in the true color green density, the hands of all are open to the eye. The thoughts, the feelings, the troubles, all these may be seen. There is no deception, and no desire for deception. Thus much may be accomplished in harmony, but the mind, body, spirit, us, gains little polarity from this interaction. Let us re-examine this metaphor and multiply it into the longest poker game you can imagine. A lifetime. The cards are love, dislike, limitation, unhappiness, pleasure, etc. They are dealt and redealt continuously. You may, during this incarnation, begin, and we stress begin, to know your own cards. You may begin to find the love within you. You may begin to balance your pleasure, your limitations, etc. However, your only indication of other selves' cards is to look into their eyes. You cannot remember your hand, their hands, perhaps even the rules of this game. This game can only be won by those who lose their cards in the melting influence of love. Can only be won by those who lay their pleasures, their limitations, their all upon the table, face up, and say inwardly, all. All of you players, each other self of myself, whatever your hand, I love it. This is the game. To know, to accept, to forgive, to balance, and to open the self in love. This cannot be done without the forgetting, for it would carry no weight in the life of the mind, body, spirit, beingness, totality. There was another series of channelings that came shortly after the Ra channelings. It came in a series of books. 7 books were channeled. The first book was called Right Use of Will. These books were never channeled, were never registered with the Library of Congress. The source of these books described itself in the terminology of Ra as the sublogos of our galaxy. And this is what he said, or it said. The book is called Right Use of Will. Note, the word soul is not used in this book. Instead, the word spirit is used. The soul is individualized spirit, but since souls can disconnect from God and still exist, he says he prefers to have the word spirit used to indicate the needed connection to him. Introduction. If this book is for you, you will know it from these few introductory pages. Realize it is meant to affect you. It is not meant to be just a mental exercise. If this book is for you, it will bring forth emotional release. You need to allow this response without harming yourself or others. The unconditional love of the Spirit for everything that exists has been understood on earth for quite some time. This, in fact, has been called divine love. Now there is need for another understanding on earth, that of divine will. Most people on earth have made a separation between the Spirit and the will. They have felt their own will was not acceptable. That to love the way God loves, they must eliminate their own feelings and opinions and do what they imagine is the will of God. And understanding is needed here. The will of God is not in opposition to the will of the individual. Because of the separation that has been made in the consciousness of so many, the will has been excluded for a long time from participating in the evolvement of the Spirit. A definite lag exists on earth between the evolvement of the Spirit and the involvement of the individual will. It is now time for each spirit to recognize, accept, and evolve this other part of itself. Each spirit is part of the divine consciousness, and each individual will is part of the divine will. Each person must take responsibility for his complete being, and not for only a part of it. The spirit must accept its own will and evolve it in a loving way, rather than in a punitive, non-accepting, or unloving one. The individual will expresses itself as feelings. When the individual will feels the loving acceptance of its own spirit, it cannot fail to come into alignment with the divine will. God has given each individual part of his consciousness with which to be aware of himself, and a part of his will with which to experience himself. Everyone now wishing to remain on earth must accept the whole being and discontinue the portions of the self that experience the earth. In the later section of the book, it is titled, Realities Precipitating Towards Earth. These describe what has been made in prophecy as the end times. The conflicts, the earth changes, the resolution of one epoch as we move into the other, the end of the age of Pisces before we move into the age of Aquarius. And this is what our sub-logo says about our God, our source. Realities precipitating towards earth. Opening to the will needs immediate attention, for this is the path that will allow survival of what is coming on earth. The changes necessary to rebalance earth are precipitating into physical reality right now and are taking place because the emotional and mental energy creating them has not been cleared enough to allow anything else. The prophecies predicting these times on earth also include understandings of how to learn what these times will teach without having to create a frightening experience in which to learn. It is a matter of personal choice here. You can learn the balance necessary to live in harmony with everything in the way that is right for you. And understanding you need about these prophecies is that they do not include any judgment from you. Judgmental qualities in these prophecies is because the people, foreseeing these things, did not see them free of their own emotions, and could not, because they have personal involvement with the earth themselves, and have their own personal choice about how they would like reality on earth to be. I am going to put everything in its right place, so that the reflections necessary can be faced without involving anyone but the ones needing that particular reflection. This action on my part looks like the judgment day to the ones foreseeing it, but it is only judgment day in the sense that everyone is going to face his own reflection. The understanding needed is that this does not it cannot be pleasant. Accepting the release of your own denial at the right time and in the right place will release your pain. The spirits I have created are not alike. The true feelings, the expression of the will, are meant to guide spirits to their right place. Every spirit feels good in its right place. The denial of the will has been so extensive that many spirits are not in their right place and cannot find their right place unless I help them. Even the ones going to what is referred to as by others as hell are not going to necessarily feel bad there. You need to realize that just because something does not feel good to you does not mean that it does not feel good to another. Your heaven could be their hell. These statements are only meant to show that what is precipitating into physical reality now, unless those that created it make changes in their energy fields. We have been taught by teachers and teachings that we create our own reality, and so we do. We have been taught by teachers and teachings that what we experience is a reflection of what we are carrying in our energy fields. What we are encountering in this crisis is a clearing of those energy fields. We can choose to meet it in a reflection in the outer realm, or we can choose to clear those misunderstandings in our energy fields in our own lives, in our own time, by opening to the emotions and to the feelings of the will. They are waiting for our acceptance. They are waiting for their release. It is only us that can release the feelings and accept the feelings that we have refused to feel on our evolutionary path. The will can be allowed to start with the things closest to it. Let your will have free response to everything you experience. Accept the will's message to you without waiting for an outward experience to prove it is right. If the will is accepted, you will not create any experiences for yourself that you do not like. Your will is the divine protection I have given you. We are not alone here. We are in fact part of the only thing that is here. The one. In the raw channelings, it said that every part of the one has within it the totality of the one. You have heard this saying that ye are gods. What that means is you are a part of the logos of our galaxy that is shared with you itself in the expression of life and creation. We are here at an extraordinary time. Some have come because the call has been sent out in the universe that help is needed on earth. And that is why they are here. Others have come into incarnation at this particular time because there's a chance to do much work in these, what has been called, the latter days. And there's only a limited time in which this can be done. When the days are over, the door will be shut temporarily. The door is never shut for a return to the one, for we are never separate. But those of us here at this special time can take advantage of the gift that has been given to us. We are a part of eternal love, life, and creation. Namaste.
Namaste.